What's up guys, John Bird III here. We're back again for another video, and in today's video we got a new iCast release, the all new Accel Baitcast reel. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like, subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever a new video drops and hits the channel. So the Accel Baitcast reel. So what is the Accel Baitcast reel? You've never heard that name before. This is actually a new reel in the Lose family. So super cool silver paint job. And let me just tell you, you're going to get a great reel for the money. I actually have one that I've been playing around with since January. So this is the one I've been playing around with since January, and I have been blown away with this reel. So to jump into it, it's an all graphite frame reel, and it is a 5-bearing system. This reel will be a great entry point reel into anybody that's a new beginner in trying to use a baitcaster. So super comfortable to hold in hand. You always want reels, anytime you're picking up a new reel, you want to find a reel that feels good in the hand. And that's one thing I love about this new ergonomic frame, because this is a completely different frame and new reel into the entire Lose portfolio. And that is a great thing, because right here, one thing I like about this reel, aside from the frame, is the braking system. So this has the MC1 braking system. So in your reels with your traditional braking system that has the magnetic brakes, the 5 magnets, the MC1 actually has one giant magnet. The unique thing about that, in my opinion, and I haven't figured it out, but I'm able to make super long casts, and even if the reel seems like it's about to get a backlash, for whatever odd reason, it seems to kind of auto-correct itself a little bit. And so my backlashes actually have become a lot better, or minimum, I guess you could say, than your traditional magnetic brakes in some of your older reels. So, for example, $99 speed spool. It's not $99 anymore, but this is the Gen 2. So this is a prime example. See, 5 traditional magnets in there. So that's the traditional braking system. This braking system like that has been around for a long time. So Lose has switched it up and changed it to one giant magnet there. It still covers the same radius, but technically you actually have a little bit more magnet in there because it's filling those cracks and grooves. And since it's that one giant magnet, it actually gives it better connection with the spool to help prevent those backlashes. So I actually like the MC1 braking system. Another unique thing about this reel right here, you will also be able to get it in a combo as well. So if you're new and you're interested in getting a baitcast combo, you definitely want to check out the Accel, because you can get it in a combo, or you can buy the reel standalone if you already have a rod that you want to put it on. What techniques have I used this reel for? I've thrown traps with it. I've thrown a lot of traps with this reel earlier this spring when I was using it. And I mean, it will freaking slang a trap a long way. I was blown away by that. But I've thrown traps with it, bladed jigs. One of my other buddies who's been testing this out, he's thrown A-rigs with it, frogs, done a little bit of everything, Texas rigging with this reel, and I'm blown away. Like, I was really blown away, because it's a entry-level reel in the entire Lose portfolio. And what you're going to get with this reel, you're going to get durability with it being a graphite frame, so it's going to be durable. You're going to get comfortability because of the frame design. You're going to get good braking once you dial this reel in. Now, I will say, this reel right here on the gas pedal, typically in your, higher end baitcaster reels, and when I say higher end, let's say above $100, you have that, you hear that ticking or clicking tensioner knob. This reel doesn't have that, and even the speed spool at $100, that reel didn't have it. So what you have to do is you have to learn to really fine tune this thing. I always say, once you put your bait on here, you hit that button and you just start lightly backing it off. And as soon as your bait just barely starts to fall, I have a video out there that teaches you how to dial in a baitcaster. But as soon as your bait just starts to fall, you're perfect. I always say, depending on what the bait is, start off at about 5 or 5.5 on your side plate. That'll give you the best all around braking to get started. If you're noticing you're having a little bit more backlash, adjust the brakes or tighten down your tensioner knob. But this is what you need to figure out. Is the backlash coming at the beginning of the cast, or is the backlash coming at the end of the cast? Because that's going to determine what you need to adjust. So think about it like this. If you're making a cast and it's firing off the spool too fast, you need to adjust your tensioner knob. But if the backlash that you notice that is coming is towards the end of the cast, you need to adjust your magnetic external brakes. That's the way I tend to adjust my reel. So if I'm noticing that it's firing off the spool too fast, I need to tighten that tensioner knob down. But if I'm noticing it's more so the backlash is happening towards the end of the cast, that's where I go ahead and I adjust the external magnetic dial. And then once you might need to tighten it down, add a few more clicks, make it a little bit higher. So if I'm on 5 and I'm noticing a lot more backlash towards the end of the cast, I may jump up to 7 or 8. And if that's too much, I may bump it down 1. You know, you got to find that sweet spot, because every reel has a sweet spot, but it varies. Listen to this. It varies based on the bait that you have tied on to. Now, another thing to keep in mind is if you're throwing, for example, you're throwing a light Texas rig, meaning a Fat Baby Finesse worm 3/16 ounce weight, 4/0 hook, 17-pound line, but you're throwing it on a very, let's say a rod that has no tip to it, you're going to backlash. But if you throw it on a rod that is too whippy, you'll have a backlash. So you have to also pair it with the right rod. So depending on the technique, I'm not going to say, oh, go get this model or do this or do that. Depending on the technique, that is how you're going to have to dial this reel in. Because anytime you're getting into bait casters, especially entry point bait casters, there's a lot of, you got to find the sweet spot. Even at your high end stuff, there's always a sweet spot. So again, because this doesn't have the tensioner knob, you got to be very intentional about adjusting it. And once you notice your bait just barely starts to fall, that's why I like to set mine where it just barely falls. Some people say when it starts falling like this, that's better. I don't think so, because I think for a beginner, you have a little bit more backlashes. But when that sucker just barely starts to fall like that, stop. It's perfect. Then you just set your external dial on here. You're good to go. Again. And then right here, it has 15 pounds, a max drag, but let me say this. It doesn't have the clicking drag star, but I lock down all the drags on my baitcasters regardless of whether I'm on a Texas rig or some form of moving bait. I always lock down my baitcasters, and that's just something that I do. Because if I'm throwing a crankbait, for example, if I'm throwing a crankbait, I have my drag locked down. If I got one, I just, I fish it, I crank him in, but once he gets to the boat, he starts digging, I back that sucker off just a little bit. I just start backing off just a little bit. That way, when he starts digging, he can pull a little bit of line out of there. I don't play the press the button and just kind of feather the spool. I feel like that can go bad so fast. And that's just my opinion. But again, I always lock mine down no matter what the technique is, and depending on what it is. With treble hooks, I may back off it. With a bladed jig or a spinnerbait, I'm not backing off of that, because a bladed jig got a flipping hook in there, a spinnerbait got a big hook in there, so it's like it's one single hook. I don't need to back off of the drag on there at all. Just more so with top waters and also with treble hooks. So top waters have treble hooks. That's what I typically use. That's when I back it off a little bit after I'm fighting the fish, not before I fight the fish. Because one thing I can't stand, and I've seen some guys' videos, and it kind of like, I don't know, it kind of grinds my gears a little bit, but I'm like, dude, lock that drag down. When you hear them, especially when they're dragging something or they flipping, you hear them set the hook and you hear that drag to slip a little bit, I'm like, no, that is not what you want. So I always lock my drag down no matter the technique, and then I adjust as I'm fighting the fish. This reel also, I forgot to mention, it'd be good for throwing top water. So I normally run, as I always say, 50-pound braid on my top waters. That's just my comfort. I don't run lighter braid when it comes to top water, because I've seen some horror stories with lighter braid, guys throwing lighter braid on top water. So 50 is my go-to, and I just don't have to worry about that. And also, this reel is great for throwing like a capping shad. So it's a great all-around reel. 1-to-gear ratio, 7:5 to 1. So as I've mentioned in multiple other videos, 7:5 to 1 is a great all-around gear ratio for you to use for pretty much any technique. So, I mean, cranking, it might be a little fast, but I know guys that crank on 7.5 to 1. I'm about to say crank on fast, but that cranks on 7.5 to 1. I actually know a few guys that cranks on 8.3s, and that is like mind-boggling. But 7.5 to 1, you can throw some crankbaits with it. You definitely top water. You can frog with this, flip, pitch, buzz bait, bladed jig, spinner bait. I mean, you name it, you can freaking do it all with this reel. So you're definitely gonna want to check this reel out right here. Great price point reel, and it's a entry level reel, as I would say, into the Lose portfolio. And if you're new into getting a Baitcaster and you don't want to spend $100, $200, $300, shoot, 500 if you want the elite. You don't have to do that. If you're new and you just want to get a good Baitcaster that is going to help you get your feet wet, get in the game and learn and get out there and learn how to fish different techniques with a Baitcaster, you're definitely going to want to check out the all new Accel Baitcast reel, because I'm telling you, you're going to get a great reel for the money, and it's definitely fun to fish with. I've actually seen this reel somewhat outperform some more higher end reels that I've actually had the opportunity to use, like in my past life and stuff like that. So I tell you, it's pretty slick. And plus, it's silver and it looks cool. And one thing, let me say this: if you're worrying about durability as far as the paint goes on this reel, you're not gonna have to worry about it at all, because like I said, I got one down there that I've been using since March, and the paint still is intact. And I've hooked traps up here and all kind of stuff, and the paint still looks pretty good. It's not that bad. So, but again, make sure you check out the all new Accel Baitcast reel, because whether you're a beginner angler or even an experienced angler, I know a lot of experienced anglers that don't like to spend a whole lot of money on their reels. Definitely check this out, because just know you're going to be getting a great reel for the money. But anyway, I'm JB3. I got to get back to living the dream. I'll catch you later.